choosing and combining the 6 main investigative methods: physical surveillance, electronic surveillance, research and audit, forensic analysis, undercover techniques, and interviews, is one of the most strategic parts of Phase 3 information gathering and fact-finding. While each method can stand on its own, the strongest investigations usually come from using them together in a deliberate step-by-step sequence that fits the specific case. A good starting point is to evaluate each method against a set of practical criteria. The first is appropriateness. Does the method actually fit the type of allegation being investigated? For example, some methods may be too intrusive for certain environments and could raise privacy concerns. Next is practicality. Can this method realistically be carried out in the current workplace context? Expedience also matters, meaning how quickly the method is likely to produce useful results. Investigators also need to consider the potential value of the information. Will it provide direct evidence or only support other findings? Cost is another factor, especially in balancing the effort required against the expected benefit or return on investment. Finally, and very importantly, there are legal implications. Whether the method complies with privacy laws, employment standards, and internal policies. Once these factors are considered, investigators typically move into combining methods in a structured way. One key approach is blending non-interactive and interactive methods. Non-interactive methods, such as surveillance, research, audits, and forensic analysis, are used first to gather background intelligence without alerting the subject. These methods help establish facts, patterns, and context, although they often produce evidence that is more corroborative than direct. Interactive methods, such as undercover approaches and interviews, are then used to engage directly with individuals to understand intent, clarify behavior, and potentially obtain admissions. A major principle in this process is what is often called a leverage strategy. Information gathered through non-interactive methods becomes the foundation for interviews. In other words, documented evidence is used strategically during conversations to test explanations and, where appropriate, encourage honest disclosures or admissions. Another important rule is the documents first sequence. Before speaking to witnesses or subjects, investigators typically review available records, audits, and other documentary evidence. This helps identify key individuals, establish timelines, and understand the paper trail before anyone is alerted. It also allows the investigator to build and test multiple working hypotheses early in the process, which improves focus and reduces wasted effort later on. In practice, investigations tend to follow a fairly consistent deployment sequence. It often begins with research, audits, and forensic analysis to establish the initial facts and narrow down the pool of possible involved individuals. If needed, surveillance may be used to confirm behaviors or fill gaps in the audit trail. Once a solid factual foundation is in place, investigators move into interviews, starting with neutral third parties who have no direct stake in the outcome. From there, they proceed to individuals with partial knowledge or potential involvement, gradually moving from least to most implicated. The final step is usually the interview with the primary subject, once the investigator already has the strongest possible evidentiary position. Different types of cases also tend to require different combinations of methods. Theft investigations, for example, often rely heavily on audits, surveillance, and forensic analysis of devices before interviews take place. Substance abuse cases may involve undercover work combined with informants and targeted interviews. Computer-related crimes typically require digital forensics alongside system log audits and structured interviews. In harassment cases, the focus is usually more on policy review, document analysis, and carefully sequenced interviews rather than technical surveillance. At the same time, investigators need to be careful not to over-investigate. The goal in most workplace matters is not to prove a case beyond all doubt, but to reach a reasoned and defensible conclusion based on the balance of probabilities. That also means the process should remain flexible. While the plan provides structure, it should be adjusted if new information emerges. For example, if an investigation that begins as a harassment complaint reveals evidence of financial misconduct,